On the 24th of October 1945, something amazing happened. Representatives of 50 countries met in San Francisco to draw up a United Nations Charter. This charter was ratified by China, France, and many others to bring the United Nations into existence. The United Nations is an international organization that serves the same purpose as and replaced the League of Nations. It was formed after World War II to prevent anything like that from happening again.
Another world conflagration. Inside the convention hall, 300 world representatives gather for the first session of the conference, which is led by Secretary of State Edward R. Stettinius. The meeting is open.
The Conference of the United Nations on International Organization is now convened.
Commissar Molotov listens keenly.
Provide the machinery, which will make future peace not only
What is the United Nations? The United Nations is an organization that was designed to maintain international peace and security. Before the United Nations, there was an organization called the League of Nations. There were 58 nations in this organization. It got shut down because World War II started in its presence. Out of World War II came a need for a worldwide forum where nations could peacefully communicate. So on the 24th of October, a compromise named the United Nations was formed. President Roosevelt was a huge driving force of the United Nations. The term United Nations was used by Roosevelt to describe the alliance fighting the Axis powers during the conflict of World War II. There were 51 nations at the beginning, and now there are 193 members. According to the Charter, the United Nations serves 4 main purposes under 6 organs. These purposes include to maintain international peace and security, to develop friendly relations among nations, to cooperate in solving international problems and in promoting respect for human rights, and to be a centre for harmonizing the actions of nations. There are 6 main bodies of the United Nations. The first one I will be discussing is the General Assembly. Another name for the General Assembly is the base of the United Nations. What is the General Assembly exactly? It is the main policy-making organ of the United Nations. If you ever hear a country saying something crazy, then it has most likely come from the General Assembly. The General Assembly can make decisions on important questions, admit new members, and deal with budgetary matters. Next is the United Nations Secretariat or Secretary General. The Secretariat is organized in departmental lines, with each office having a certain action or responsibility area. Members of the departments work together to gain an understanding in order to complete the organization's daily objectives in all areas of the world. Then we have the United Nations Security Council. The Charter states that the Security Council is there to maintain international peace and security. Some of the functions are, but not limited to, take military actions against an aggressor, recommend new member admissions, and maintain peace and security in accordance to principles and guidelines within the United Nations. After that, we have the International Court of Justice. The International Court of Justice is like the principal judicial organ of the United Nations. Its functions are to settle in accordance with international law and to give advisory opinions on legal questions referred to it by authorized United Nations organs and specialized agencies. They also have the Economic and Social Council. This is at the heart of the system to promote the 3 dimensions of sustainable development. The Economic and Social Council's functions are, but not concluded to, promote sustainable development, guide operational activities for development, and work with civil society. Finally, there is the Trusteeship Council, which is the only currently defunct body of the United Nations. It suspended its actions on the 1st of November 1994, which was a month after its last trust territory gained freedom. The Trusteeship Council was for examining and discussing reports from the administrating authority on the political, economic, social, and educational advancement of the people of the trust territories. Now, over the years, there have been more and more conflicts, but none of those have been as big as World War II. And since the organization is a compromise, they have solved all the conflicts by working together as a group. One of these minor conflicts solved by a compromise is the Congo Crisis. The Congo Crisis was a war in Congo between 1960 and 1964. It is also called the Congo Civil War. 100,000 lives were lost during this conflict. The United Nations forces were eventually able to recapture all of Kinshasa province, ending this conflict. Another one of these conflicts was Operation Power Pack. It was from April 1965 to September 1965, and also called the Dominican Civil War. General Tejera had sent an ambush to kill President Caceres. Caceres was killed, and Tejera was injured. The conflict ended a few months later in September, which is when the last Organization of American States peacekeepers were able to withdraw from the island. I believe that the United Nations is truly succeeding in the job that they do. We haven't had a huge conflict since the compromise was formed. Having no huge conflict allows for us to experience relationships with other countries.